Boy, got that dog in him, huh? You don't know all that talking about, hey, what's going on, man? So, the Falcons are 1-2. Billy Bowman.
He's kind of like a baby backer.
The boy get him an interception. Then I look up, Xavier Watts get an interception. Jaylen Walker got a sack. James Pearce Jr., he get him a sack too. People say we shouldn't have drafted Bijan and we should have got Jalen Carter, but I look up, man, we got 6 sacks. I told you so. I put to the bird bath. What's going on, family? It's your boy C-Mo the C Mitchell checking in with another weekly episode of the Falcons Bird Bath. Shout out to all our loyal subscribers and everybody who checks in with us weekly. If you haven't, hit that like and subscribe button. Tap in the comments below and let us know what you guys think about the Falcons season so far. And let us know what you think about the topics that we're dropping. So Falcons fans have been complaining all off season about how the Falcons pass rush was terrible, how the Falcons were terrible with their draft picks. Terry didn't know what he was doing. And last week we talked about how the rushing game was terrible. It was a terrible idea to not draft Jaylen Carter instead of Bijan Robinson. Now the Falcons are sitting 1-1. And they're number 2 ranked in defense. 326 yards of total offense, which isn't necessarily crazy, but we had 218 yards rushing. A lot of people don't like that the Falcons had an ugly game on Sunday by most standards in today's NFL. But if you want to win deep in December, of course you're going to have to put touchdowns on the board, but you're going to have to play close defensive games and not beat yourself. And we did a really good job of not necessarily turning the ball over too often, except for when Drake London had the one fumble. But these are the type of games that you're going to have to play. The Falcons defense was headed up by the rookies and the young dogs. We held Minnesota to 198 total yards, and we held them to 78 yards rushing. I feel like a great deal of the success this week came from Raheem Morris and Zack Robinson deciding that they were going to come out, put a game plan together, and commit to the run. And it made the defense and the offense just more aggressive on the front lines overall. We ran the ball 39 times. Having a good running game in this NFL is like having a really good jab. It stops people from just wanting to rush you and getting too aggressive on you and wanting to get too close. Lulling teams to sleep with 4 yards per carry, 4 yards per carry. Then you break a few other ones. We gave the ball to Bijan 22 times for 143 yards, and we gave it to Tyler Allgeier another 16 times for 76 yards. Zack Robinson also got a little bit more creative with the play calling and the personnel. One of the biggest complaints that fans have had is that we don't have a fullback. Zack Robinson came out in 12 personnel, which is 1 running back and 2 tight ends, 87.3% of the time against the Vikings. And he didn't just come out in traditional 2 tight end packages. There was at least 17 plays where they had a tight end in the backfield either blocking as a lead blocker or pass blocking on obvious passing downs where we were able to get Bijan or Tyler Allgeier out there at wide receiver to try to get the ball in their hands a lot more. Bijan also accounted for another 3 receptions off of 5 targets for 25 yards. I know a lot of y'all might not think that that's big, but we were able to get the ball into Bijan's hands over 25 times this game. Just having the offense come out and be more aggressive made the defense more aggressive, in my humble opinion, as well. So another huge thing that stood out is that we're getting Kyle Pitts a lot more involved. Even though we didn't have a lot of passing yards this game, Kyle Pitts only had 37 yards on 4 receptions on 5 targets. But seems a lot more enthusiastic. He's playing harder. And he just seems like he feels like he knows he's a part of this offense. One of the biggest things to note that nobody's talking about is that Kyle Pitts is becoming a lot better of a blocker on pass blocking and run blocking. They're not taking him out of the game when they have obvious run situations. And they're not only running to the side of Warner when they have 2 traditional tight ends split on both sides. And that allows him to stay on the field in play action situations as well, too. That's only going to make him more valuable of a player, and that's going to give him more production this year to probably hit, like I said, around the 700 to 800 yard range. They're even leaving Kyle Pitts on the field in 11 personnel and running the ball out there with him as well, too. This is really big for him and his development. Now, last week, a lot of people were upset that we weren't able to run the ball and we had a lot of passing yards. This week, we come out, we run the ball effectively, but we don't have a lot of passing yards, and people are starting to question if Michael Penix is good. And there's still complaints from people about Zack Robinson holding this offense back. And honestly, I think that Zack Robinson did a pretty good job this past week. The only problem that I saw with the Falcons offense, we had far too many penalties, especially when we got down in the red zone, and that limited us to having only field goals instead of being able to punch it in a couple of times. We can't keep having the false starts that we have, but I do attribute some of that to us having a backup lineman in there. And we also were playing in a very hostile environment as well, too, in Minnesota. And I do think that we will get that together in general moving forward. In the last 2 games, Minnesota and Tampa Bay made very concerted efforts to put pressure on Michael Penix, and they also went through a great deal of trouble to make sure that they limited deep passes downfield, even once we had Mooney back this game. That just opened up a whole lot more for us in the run game, especially this game, as well as the intermediate passing game. I think that Michael Penix is doing a great job of just taking what the defense is giving them. But like I said last week, this offense is at its best when we're running the ball at least 25 times, and if we can get to 35 times a game, that's a golden number. This game right here, we were able to run the ball 39 times. If you're able to get about 25 touches in Bijan's hand and you're able to run the ball 15 to 20 times with him and you're able to get another 10 to 15 rushing attempts out of Tyler Allgeier as well, it just makes this team a lot more aggressive. Teams eventually are going to start coming up and putting a safety in the box a lot more, and that's going to just open up things downfield and make this offense a lot more potent. That's going to make our play action game better. And we're already running a lot out of the pistol formation, so it's not going to be a problem to get one-on-ones eventually, and we're going to make a lot more big plays. Also, I mentioned Warner earlier. I love the fact that we can play him at tight end and we can also put him in the backfield, and he's an effective backfield passing blocker. There's times where we're not necessarily putting Ray McCloud out there on the field at the same time, where it's just Mooney, Pitts, and Bijan maybe out there in the slot, and we're running those two tight end sets. I think getting a lot more creative in those type of situations is going to make it harder on offenses as well too. Getting the same personnel out there but playing in different positions, creating mismatches that your players aren't used to normally defending and guarding, and it just causes a little bit more confusion and allows you to execute your offense a little bit quicker. So I want to give a little bit of credit to Zack Robinson for that. But Warner is really establishing himself quietly as another X-factor chess piece on the board for us. You love those type of guys that are not necessarily all pro players, but they're really good and versatile and allow you to do a lot of different things, and that's very underrated with the players that we have. On defense, we definitely have a lot of guys like that. The defense this week was outstanding. It stood out to see that the rookies were doing their thing. James Pearce Jr. got his first sack of the season. Jaylen Walker got his first sack of the year as well, too. So we were able to shut up a lot of those critics and people that talked about those guys not being on the stat sheet yet. Billy Bowman,
he's kind of like a baby backer,
and Xavier Watts continue just balling out, and they both got interceptions. He's been playing phenomenal in the nickel. They gave the Defensive Player of the Game award to Leonard Floyd this week. But the biggest key unsung hero on the defense that's most underrated, I feel like, is Zach Harrison. This guy tied David Onyemata for the team lead in tackles with 5 apiece, but he also had a sack and a half, a tackle for loss, and it's not showing right here, but he had 2 quarterback hits as well on Sunday. Honestly, being that Zach Harrison had a strip sack, in fact, I kind of believe maybe he was the defensive player of the game. Zach Harrison makes all type of plays that don't always show up on the stat sheet. He's able to play on the inside a great deal of the time, but he's also lining up as an edge defender and rushing the passer as well too. And that type of versatility just allows us to do so much on the defense. He's a big frame, tall guy that can move in space pretty well. He's an athlete like a younger Calais Campbell. Football, as much as it is an aggressive game, it's as much a timing and finesse game as well too, especially in today's NFL. So you need more agile guys who are a little bit better laterally, and he's filling in quite nicely for what we wanted Grady Jarrett to do a lot more last year. And that's why they were comfortable letting him go. Another person who's been playing lights out over the last 2 weeks has been Brandon Dorlus. He did a great job during the preseason. In the last 2 weeks, he's been outstanding. Brandon Dorlus this game had 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and he had a tackle for loss as well too. The Falcons had over 16 pressures this game, and Brandon Dorlus led the pack with 4 pressures. Zach Harrison had 3 pressures, as you see. Wk2, who also had half a sack, had 3 pressures. And James Pearce Jr. also had 3 pressures. Jeff Ulbrich proves that having the proper philosophy, having the right players, and putting them in place means a world of difference. We have a lot of speed out there, a lot more speed out here than we've had in the last few years, and it's definitely showing a lot more on tape, and it allows for a lot more versatility and for our players to get to the ball a lot more. Divine Diablo is making plays out there that Nate Landman could never make. I saw a few people last week saying that, oh, we should have never let go of Nate Landman. He was NFC Defensive Player of the Week, but Nate, I guarantee you, you cannot show me tape of him being able to break on the ball and make plays like Divine Diablo does. Like the one play where Divine Diablo makes where he breaks on TJ Hockenson. Last year, that's a catch. It's not an interception. It's not something that shows on the stat sheet probably even as a deflection. But he hits him and jars the ball out and stops him from being able to make a play. Those are plays we wouldn't be able to even make with Troy Anderson last year. And that just allows us to get into a lot more third and long situations. Minnesota only converted 4 third downs this past week out of 11 attempts. We've gotten a lot better on our third down efficiency and getting off the field a lot more. Our defensive line is playing a lot more aggressive, making plays in the backfield. You're getting your front 6 and 7 defenders, all of them, running to the ball at the same time. And that's what we're going to need to do continuously if we want to be a playoff team. The defense is starting to do what you want all great defenses to do, which is give your offense a chance to continuously win the game. And one of the biggest things that's going under the radar more than anything is that A.J. Terrell got hurt early in the game. We were able to bring in backup cornerbacks who played quite nicely in his stead. At the moment he went down, I just knew that they were going to target Justin Jefferson a lot more. But Justin Jefferson only ended the game with 88 yards and no touchdowns. And pretty much nobody else did anything. They didn't have a good passing game. As well as our defensive line and our front 7 has done at rushing the passer, the secondary, even aside from the rookies, deserve a lot more credit. People want to get rid of D. Alford. A lot of people wanted to get rid of some of the other backup cornerbacks we had, which is kind of a weird sentiment anyway, because you need guys on your depth chart in case your studs go down, which is what just happened with A.J. Terrell. We're going to see what happens with that. He's got a hamstring, and right now the practice reports aren't completely out. So we'll see what happens on Wednesday and Thursday as we go into the next game. But that's 2 weeks in a row where we faced really good receiving units. And the most damage that we did was having one receiver get 2 touchdowns, but nobody has had over 100 yards yet. As a matter of fact, nobody's gotten over 90 yards yet. The most that any one receiver has had is Justin Jefferson. And again, I'll take that. 3 or 4 receptions for 88 yards and you shut down the rest of the guys. I'll take it all day. Terry's draft picks are starting to really age like fine wine. Wk2, who we got in the second round, is looking really good right now. Zach Harrison, who we got the year previous to that in the third round, is starting to really pan out. And Raheem Morris is believing and trusting in his young guys, which is something that they didn't do last year. Brandon Dorlus, someone we got in the 4th round, doing wonders. Going getting David Onyemata was a big deal. Even Arnold Ebiketie is doing a lot better as a run defender as well as his pass rush this year. Jaylen Walker leads all our other edge defenders, aside from Leonard Floyd, with 47 snaps. Last but not least, the kicker, Romo, came in and hit 5 kicks, basically won the game. And at this point, I'm all but certain that Koo lost his job at this point. He came through huge with the 54-yarder late in the game, and you know, this is something we haven't been able to depend. A lot of people say you shouldn't put it in the kicker's hands, but all over the league, teams are winning games at a margin of around 3 points. So a decent kicker who could come out and just do his job is sometimes the difference between winning and losing in this league and making the playoffs or not making the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see what Koo does with the rest of his career, and I wish him the best. I've got nothing but love for everything he's done, but his time in Atlanta has pretty much come to an end at this point. Now, moving forward, we have the Panthers this week, and the Panthers pretty much are a bad team on offense and defense. At the end of the year last year, Bryce Young was starting to gain a lot of confidence, and he had like his coming out party of the year against us at the last game of the year and prevented us from actually having a winning record at that point in time. One of the biggest reasons for that, I think, is because we didn't have enough of a pass rush and we didn't have the type of guys that could hold up and pass coverage deep downfield. And when you're bad up front and you're mediocre in the secondary, it's not a good mix. But this year, we're a lot more improved, and our defense is much improved up front with our edge rushers. We have guys who are going to collapse the pocket. We have guys who can run after the quarterback and make it real hard for you. James Pearce Jr., even if he's not able to get to you on the sack, just chasing you down when you're running out of the pocket, things that would have been a 5 or 10-yard gain consistently, oftentimes are turning into nothing but a 2-yard gain, a 3-yard gain, maybe 5 yards or something like that. We're not getting gashed for 20-yard runs by quarterbacks consistently the way that we were. We're also able to shut down the run. Carolina has a really good running back out there in Chuba Hubbard, but they haven't had a lot of success on the ground this year so far. Their offensive line isn't so great. They haven't had a lot of success being able to pass the ball. So this is a trap game, and this is a game that we could potentially lose. Carolina is definitely desperate right now. So they're going to come out and give us all that they got. Cardinals were able to move the ball pretty much at will on Sunday. They were effective running the ball, and they were effective getting downfield with the pass because they don't really have a great pass rush. Kyler Murray was able to hurt him a little bit with his legs, and he was able to get the ball to the open receivers as you need. I expect a lot of the same with our offense. We're definitely going to run the ball at them and establish the run and want to come out there and be aggressive like we were this past week. When you're on the road, you want to be able to have your running game. Run games and defenses travel well in this league. So we want to come out with the same fervor that we had this past week and be aggressive in the same manners that we were. All right, guys, that's our show for today. Stay tuned for our deep dive later in the week as we talk about some of the key matchups, key players, and keys to victory as we play against the Carolina Panthers this week. C-Mo to C. Mitchell checking out for the Falcons Bird Bath and Point Game Official, baby.